Hey everybody, Brett Legassi here from SidelineBlitz.com. Today, as promised, I wanted to bring you guys the Colin Kaepernick video. Lately, it's been a hot topic, and it's something that I've seen all over social media. I've seen so many people commenting on it. Everybody has their own opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. Some more extreme than others. I even keep seeing the Riley Cooper compared to Colin Kaepernick, and I just want to share my thoughts on the whole situation. For some of you that know me and have seen some of my stances on it, I've been a little back and forth, but that's for good reason. I've done research to kind of throw my mind back and forth, and I found my middle ground. I wanted to share it with you guys and see what you think. Going back to the Riley Cooper versus Colin Kaepernick thing to start out with, first, just stop that. Look, you're comparing a wide receiver to a quarterback. In all actuality, it's not really a fair comparison anyway. It's apples to oranges. You're talking a quarterback who's only carrying what teams carry 3 of them per team. Look, I even bring my calculator out here. 3 teams, or 32 teams times 3 quarterbacks. Simple. Just so we know we're not spitballing here. Oh, can't really see it. Anyway, 96. You can do the math. 6 receivers are usually carried by every NFL team. 5, 2, 6. Depends on the team. Some teams more run heavy will switch and carry another tight end or another back instead of a receiver. But either way, 5 or 6. 6 times 32 ends up being 192. 5 times 32, 160. So there's a lot more chances for wide receivers to make a team than a quarterback. So that's really, again, not an overly fair comparison. As well as Riley Cooper can be signed for a veteran minimum, whereas Colin Kaepernick, you're not going to sign him to a veteran minimum. He's worth more than that, so it's a little different. I know I don't agree with what Riley Cooper said. He said something stupid while he was drunk. Go figure. I mean, I think we've all said something stupid when we're drunk. Not sticking up for what he said or anything like that. I'm just saying, it's a little different. But he had a tryout that lasted 1 day. Didn't even get a contract offer. Nothing. So we're kicking the tires to see what he had left. Kaepernick got a contract offer. Didn't even have to work out or anything. So think about that. They both got the same amount of chances. So it's not like Kaepernick hasn't got the tires kicked a little bit. But regarding Kaepernick, as far as him not being on a team yet, first, to really evaluate this correctly, you really should sit back and say, well, how many teams had an established quarterback already? And you think of teams like the Colts who have Andrew Luck, the Patriots, obviously Tom Brady, even their 2 backups they're developing. Look at those teams and throw them to the side. Steelers, Seahawks. Before the NFL draft, a lot of teams like that are not going to look at a quarterback who's ready to compete for a job or a quarterback who is going to cost more to be a backup. A lot of those teams are going to focus more on other aspects and probably find a developmental guy they can develop into something and possibly trade later. So take them off the list. So before the draft, you had teams, to me, the Bills, the Jets, even the Browns, all missed out on Colin Kaepernick. However, I think the most confusing team, the biggest head scratcher, is the Bears. What were they doing? Mike Glennon? Seriously? They even talk about a backup caliber quarterback, and if you feel Colin Kaepernick is a backup caliber quarterback, his numbers suggest that he is not a starter that can take over a franchise and go win you ball games right now. So the backup / battling for a job, a starting position, is definitely a valuable reason. However, looking at Mike Glennon, at least with Kaepernick, if my starter goes down and Kaepernick comes in, I can say, well, we can run the ball a little more, do things a little more run heavy. Get to the red zone where Colin Kaepernick is very good, and I'll get to that in a second or in a moment. But you're going to pay him all that money, and I actually think that Colin Kaepernick would have been much cheaper than Mike Glennon, especially that deal he signed. That deal is ridiculous, and I think Kaepernick would have cost less. You could have got him locked up to a 1 or 2 year contract with a third-year team option and still drafted Mitch Trubisky. Kaepernick plays, 2 seasons? He'll be 30 in November. And not that he's not in good shape and not that he can't play longer, but with a guy who likes to run like him, maybe he doesn't last till he's 34, 35. Maybe he does. I don't know. But at 30 years old, you can say, well, I could probably get 2 to 3 years out of him at least. And then by the time he's done, I could bring in the rookie I just drafted. Or I play Kaepernick for a year or two, and if my rookie's ready, then move on. I think that was stupid. And we would have had a lot less money tied up for the future. So that's just me. So the Bears maybe they're turning to the Browns in the NFL. Maybe they would have. Maybe there's some turmoil between the head coach and the general manager. Seems like there is. Seems like Ryan Pace and the general manager and John Fox are not on the same page. So maybe that had to do with the Kaepernick thing. Maybe it wasn't a protest. Maybe it was both. Who knows? The Jets. Now, I listened to Mike and Mike the other day, and I think it was last Friday on the way home from work, and they said that they felt the Jets owner was a part of the whole Donald Trump support, and he feels that Mike Greeny had said something about where he feels that the Jets were never in on Colin Kaepernick, which is kind of a head scratcher as well. And for the wrong reasons, for the protest, I guess he feels like Woody Johnson was just anti-Kaepernick after he knelt during the flag. And let's get something out of the way with this. I'm actually a veteran of the Air Force. Okay, at first I didn't like him sitting during the flag, during the national anthem. To me, it's not something personally I wanted to see. I thought the sitting set a wrong example. I thought it looked kind of like pouting, almost like, well, I'm benched, so I'm just going to sit here anyway. That's not what he was doing, but it's what it seemed like. Sometimes it's not about what you say, what you do. Sometimes it's about how you portray yourself. So, anyway, when he knelt and then he talked to the long snapper the Seahawks drafted that was a veteran, he started kneeling and he even came out to say he's not disrespecting the troops. So, as a veteran, I thank him for still supporting the troops and just protesting without bashing my brothers and sisters in the armed forces. Back to the Jets, I would think the Jets and Bears are a team that blackballed Kaepernick. I think the Jets did. I don't think it's the entire NFL. So we have to get that out of our heads. Take that thought and just get rid of it. The team did not collude against them like they said on Mike and Mike. I 100% agreed with them. The NFL owners did not have a meeting and say, hey guys, no one signed Kaepernick. We think it's disrespectful. It's bad for the NFL. No. Look, when Frank Clark was drafted by the Seahawks, I thought, figures, Pete Carroll and the Seahawks are going to take a character guy and not really care. Kind of like Jerry Jones did this year with Jordan Lewis or Randy Gregory. The Broncos did with Shane Ray. Because let's face it, guys. It's all about winning. Whether you like it or not, winning puts butts in seats. It puts ticket sales moving, which puts money in the owner's pockets and the NFL's revenue pocket. And honestly, it's what it's all about. So, whether we like it or not, that's just the way it is. So, and when you have a guy who's a borderline starter, possibly a backup, do you want that distraction of that protest with it? If you're a team ready, equipped to handle that distraction, maybe the Seahawks usually are, the Patriots are. Those kind of established teams aren't worried about the distraction. They're going to do what they do. But some young teams like the Browns or the Bears who are already in turmoil can't, and the Jets. Let's also keep that in mind as a part of a logic of thinking. Granted, I'm not an insider. I'm not in there. I've never played in the NFL. So I can't say exactly what was going on in these meetings, but I think that's a logical option that they did consider. But I do see some of them worried about his vegan diet and how that was bad for him. Yet other NFL players have had diets like that and no one worried. Take a look at Tony Gonzalez. His eating regimen was very strict. Now, he was never out of shape. He was very fit, still strong. But look at Kaepernick. He's still fit. He's still strong. So I don't get the whole nonsense when they say his diet's a concern. Now, if he dropped down to like 190 pounds, of course, obviously that's a little concerning. But he's not. So I think that's just BS. The Bills, I mean, Cardale Jones, Guy played decent in college, right? I mean, he took over on a stacked Ohio State team, on a team that could run the football, that had some weapons, and they're going to act like he's the next best quarterback, like he's the next Ben Roethlisberger with his size and power. And look, he's not accurate throwing the football. I don't know. I mean, he can be developed, but will he? I doubt it. I'm a Tyrod Taylor fan back when he played for Virginia Tech. I've always rooted for Virginia Tech. I like Virginia Tech, but I don't see him as a future quarterback. I think he gambles too much. I think he loses sight of his reads way too often. He likes to get out of the pocket before the play even develops, and he does make some things happen, which is great. But I think he also makes mistakes that kills teams at the end of games that could hurt them. And I don't think I know they're not. The GM was fired. The whole scouting staff was fired. And then they go on to say that they're non-committal after saying they were committed to him. So they're not committed to him. There's too much money tied up there. I think it was the owner's decision to bench him in the last game of the year, which is, I don't know why he would hang around. I would have denied my option and left, but that's just me. So I don't think after this year he's going to be there. I think he's going to walk. So, and then they got Nathan Peterman from Pittsburgh, who looks like a pretty good prospect, but he still needs to be developed. So why not maybe ship Tyrod Taylor out for Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick's much cheaper than Tyrod Taylor, possibly. Apparently, according to the reports, he's not wanting a lot of money, so we're not after a whole ton of money. So why not give Kaepernick a chance, who has a little bit more experience than Taylor and possibly better? Just depends. Maybe better for their offense. So that was a team that can still sign him and possibly still sign him. So I would keep an eye on them. Now, you can almost put them in the list of before the draft of established quarterback, only because they were a team with a quarterback with already money tied into that they could have drafted a replacement early. And if they did, they would have probably went with him. So you can cut them a little slack. But I still think they could have looked into it a little bit deeper than they probably did. And then another team that I keep seeing mentioned with Kaepernick is the Jaguars. So many of you are ready to quit on Blake Bortles, but so many of you forget that in 2015 he threw for 35 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. So his touchdown-interception ratio, he doubled his touchdowns over his interceptions just about. So 35 touchdowns is nothing to overlook. His yards were about, I think it was like 3,400 yards. So his yards weren't the greatest, but he still put up 35 touchdowns, and he has the talent to be harnessed. And I think Doug Marrone believes that he can turn him around. And if he can't, the worst that happens is to get a good draft pick again and go out the quarterback in this draft, which this draft looks to be a good quarterback class. Drop a plug in here. Come see us. We'll get you ready for that draft. And that's what we do. But I don't really blame the Jaguars for sticking with Bortles and trying to develop a guy in his fourth year. I'm not giving up on him early to go out there, a guy like Kaepernick, just to put him on the bench. I mean, you might ruin Bortles that way. So I can give them a pass. The Texans, hey, they had an opening. They traded Osweiler to the Browns, which is the only reason the Browns get a pass, because the Browns decided to take Osweiler off the Texans' hands for money. So, yeah, so, I mean, the teams that are looking at him, the Seahawks, they make a ton of sense. They've seen Kaepernick. They know what he could do. They know his ability. So why not bring him in as a backup? Russell Wilson gets hurt, which he did week 1 against Miami. If he gets hurt again, and let's face it, guys who run a lot do tend to get hurt because they're out of the pocket and people see a good opportunity to hit them. If he gets hurt, they don't really have anybody. Now, bring in Kaepernick, and they have usually a really good defense, a strong run game. So Kaepernick can keep the run game going. He use that defense if they can get in the red zone. Colin Kaepernick has 50 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the red zone in his career. I actually didn't know that. He has 72 touchdowns in his career. Only 22 were not from the red zone. Now that shows that he's not a quarterback to make touchdown throws all over the field, but 50 touchdowns in the red zone, that shows that they can get turnovers in the red zone. Kaepernick can be dangerous. That's just passing, by the way. That's not running. If they can get in the red zone, whether it's turnover or running the ball, matriculating the ball downfield, if they can constantly run the clock down and get touchdowns, and then Wilson's healthy, they can have a streak of wins while he's out. Say he's out for 5 weeks, maybe Kaepernick takes you 3-2, keeps you afloat throughout the entire time. So I actually think that would be a great fit for them. I'm pretty sure it's a diverse locker room, different characters there. So I mean, Kaepernick will fit in, especially with that protest. A lot of people respect him for that. Not, I don't want to say not as a player because they still respect him as a player, but a lot of people respect his protest whether they liked him before or not. And remember, there were reports, whether true or not, about him losing his locker room the year before in 2015. So that's stuff to keep in mind. I mean, we can't just look the other way and say, "Oh, well, he's a hero for the protest," and that's all well and good. And I'm sure people love Tim Tebow because he talked about Christ being his Lord and Savior, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that he's this great NFL talent and it should keep playing. That's just not the case. I mean, it is, again, guys, it's about winning. And not that Kaepernick's a bad quarterback. I keep seeing people saying, "Oh, he's easily better than 20 other quarterbacks in the NFL." Sure, maybe. I can't say that. Mike Green and Mike Gold, again, you can't tell it's my favorite show on the way home from work. They broke it down, and they said, take the top 64 quarterbacks. Is he on that? In other words, if every team carries 2 quarterbacks, do you feel that Colin Kaepernick is better than 64 of those or somewhere on that list of those 64 quarterbacks? And yeah, he is. For sure is. I could say he's in there with the top 32, but I can't say for sure that he is going to be. It's still popping on my screen here. I can't say for sure that he's a guy that's going to come in and win games right away, but he's definitely got to come in, especially as a backup, especially with Super Bowl experience, with some starting experience. Only 2 seasons, though. Also keep that in mind. So I think he's worth bringing in, but we can't over-exaggerate it just because you stand on the fence of, "Oh, I love that protest. I love what that protest stood for." Well, that's fantastic. But what does he do on the field? Is it worth bringing him in? And you have to always consider that. Now, was he blackballed by the NFL? No. By individual teams? I believe so. But there's teams out there that probably wouldn't have had a problem with the protest and would have signed him in the first place if they didn't have a money issue or didn't already have a quarterback. So keep that stuff in mind. Try to keep a level head with thinking these things. Don't always just try to go to one side or the other. These things, try to think logically. Think both sides of the coin. Do some research. Like I did. I found that he had 50 touchdowns in a red zone, 2 interceptions. I mean, his career from 1 to 10 yards out is 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. To make sure I said that correctly. From 11 to 20, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And from 21 to 30, he's 18 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So he has decent numbers, touchdowns-wise. He has pretty good numbers all around. Nothing like stands out as he's this great quarterback. The only thing I can say that shows that he's above average and better is his touchdown-interception ratio in his career. 72 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. That's 42 more touchdowns than interceptions. Take that how you want. You can say, well, yeah, but if he started more than 2 full seasons and played more than 16 and had a lot more interceptions, I get it. I can see where you're coming from with that, and I can't argue with it because we don't know. And the likelihood, if you look at the numbers, I'm sure you can see he probably would have thrown more interceptions. However, his numbers show there is potential with him. And as I said on another video that I'm not going to upload, he had good numbers when the team was down. It seemed like when the team was down with 2 scores or more, his numbers were better. Yeah, he's throwing the ball more, which also means there's more chances for interceptions and all, but it shows that when the game's out of reach or down by 2 scores, he just calms down and almost says, what's the worst that can happen? We're already losing, so let's just go out there and let it fly. And it seems to be when he's the best. If a coach can harness that with him, he might be able to resurrect his career. But keep in mind, he's 29 years old and will be 30 in November. So, I mean, the age is a little bit of a factor. I know we're saying quarterbacks can last longer, but the older he gets, the more of a pocket passer he's going to have to become. So, can you really see that? being that. With that said, thank you for watching. Click the subscribe button. I'm trying to get our followers out there for the website. We are putting more content out there, which is why I'm doing this. Please tell us what your thoughts are, what you think. Let us know. Thanks for watching, guys.